Have you ever said yes to something you did not want and felt a small part of yourself disappear as you said it? Maybe you accepted work you did not have time for. Maybe you followed the career your family respected. Maybe you stayed silent because telling the truth might disappoint someone you loved. On the outside, you looked kind, responsible, and easy to live with. Inside, you were exhausted. And sometimes, you even resented the same people you had volunteered to please. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Wise Mind Stories. So why does approval make us feel safe while chasing it makes us feel trapped? The courage to be disliked offers a deeper answer. Many of us are not only afraid that other people will reject us, we are afraid that without their approval, we will no longer know who we are. In this episode, we'll explore why people-pleasing can slowly make you disappear, why your past does not have to control your future, and what it really means to take responsibility for your own life. Because if everyone gets a vote on your life, you may become the only person who never gets to live it. To understand how that happens, imagine a man named Ethan. At 11:47 one night, Ethan was sitting in his car outside an apartment he could not bring himself to enter. In the trunk was a suitcase he had not unpacked from last week's business trip. On the passenger seat was a folder congratulating him on a promotion he had never wanted. And on his phone were 3 messages. His boss had written, "Big things ahead." His mother had written, "Your father would have been proud." And his younger sister had written, "So, I guess you're too busy for dinner again." To everyone else, Ethan's life was moving forward. But with both hands resting on the steering wheel, he felt as though someone else had taken control of it. He had accepted the promotion because disappointing his boss felt dangerous. He had promised his mother he would move closer because saying no felt cruel. He had even told his friends that he was excited because admitting the truth felt ungrateful. Nothing in Ethan's life was happening completely against his will, and somehow, none of it felt chosen. This was the trap. Ethan had spent years becoming the person everyone could love, and lost the ability to recognize the person he was. The book's message is not that being disliked is a trophy. It is that an honest life has a price, and sometimes that price is someone else's disappointment. Being disliked is not the goal. Being free enough to be honest is. Ethan had spent most of his life trying not to pay that price. When he was 9, he came home with a score of 93 on a math test. His father looked at the paper and asked where the other 7 points had gone. At 13, Ethan won 2nd place in a piano competition. His father did not criticize him. He simply became quiet on the drive home. That silence taught Ethan something more powerful than anger ever could. Love felt warm when he performed well, and cold when he did not. So Ethan became excellent at predicting what people wanted. He noticed when teachers were disappointed before they said a word. He rewrote messages until there was nothing in them that could offend anyone. At work, he volunteered before the room became awkward. In relationships, he apologized even when he did not understand what he had done. If you asked Ethan why, he had an answer ready. "It's because of my father." And honestly, that explanation made sense. The past leaves marks. A childhood built around conditional approval can shape the nervous system, relationships, and self-image for years. The courage to be disliked, however, asks us to separate an explanation from a life sentence. This is the book's first major provocation. In the book, the young man resists this idea with almost the same anger Ethan would have felt. Their debate, reduced to its essence, sounds like this. "You cannot tell people that their past does not matter," the young man argues. "I am not saying it does not matter," the philosopher replies. "I am saying it does not decide." Then why can't people simply change? Because familiar unhappiness can feel safer than freedom we cannot predict. The young man hears blame. But the philosopher is trying to offer possibility. Pain can shape the road behind you without choosing every road ahead. Instead of asking only, what caused me to become this way? Adlerian psychology also asks, what purpose does this pattern serve now? That question can feel insulting at first. Ethan was not trying to be miserable. He did not consciously choose the fear that tightened his chest every time someone sounded unhappy with him. But his people-pleasing did serve a purpose. It protected him from rejection. If he never said what he wanted, no one could reject the real him. If he followed the safest path, failure could never belong entirely to him. If his life felt empty, he could always say, I had no choice. Everyone needed me to do this. His obedience was painful, but it was also a hiding place. Your past can explain your pain without being allowed to design your future. That does not mean traumatic experiences are imaginary, or that people are responsible for what was done to them. This book is a philosophy of agency, not a substitute for trauma care. Its challenge is narrower and more practical. Whatever happened before today, does it get the final vote on what you do next? For Ethan, that question was unbearable because it removed his favorite excuse. If his father was no longer controlling him, then who kept saying yes? The next morning, Ethan opened an email from his boss. The company wanted him to attend a Sunday planning meeting. He already had plans with his sister, plans he had canceled twice. His fingers moved toward the familiar reply. Of course, happy to help. Then he stopped. He deleted the sentence and wrote, I'm not available on Sunday. I can review the plan first thing Monday morning. He stared at the message for 6 full minutes. What if his boss thought he lacked commitment? What if the promotion disappeared? What if this one boundary revealed that Ethan was not valuable after all? He clicked send. 2 minutes later, the reply arrived. Understood. Monday works. That was it. No punishment, no dramatic confrontation. The world did not end. But something inside Ethan cracked open. He realized that many of the prisons in his life had never been locked. He had simply been too frightened to touch the door. Of course, not every boundary ends so neatly. Some people will push back. Some will call you selfish because they benefited from your lack of limits. Some relationships only feel peaceful because one person has agreed to disappear. So here is an uncomfortable question. If someone only likes the version of you who never says no, do they like you, or do they like your obedience? The book then moves into an even bigger claim. Our deepest problems are problems of interpersonal relationships. Think about the insecurities that follow you through an ordinary day. Not successful enough compared with whom? Not attractive enough in whose eyes? Embarrassed in front of which audience? Even loneliness is not simply the absence of people. It is the pain of feeling disconnected from them. Ethan understood this on the afternoon his promotion was announced. His co-workers gathered around him, smiling. Someone opened a bottle of sparkling wine. His manager gave a speech about leadership and sacrifice. Then Ethan noticed Marcus at the back of the room. Marcus had joined the company in the same year. They had once eaten lunch together almost every day. But as promotions became possible, friendship slowly turned into measurement. When Marcus succeeded, Ethan felt smaller. When Marcus made a mistake, Ethan felt relief. Neither man had declared a competition, but both were living inside one. Marcus raised his glass and said, "You earned it." Ethan thanked him, but heard suspicion inside the words. Was Marcus jealous? Was he being sarcastic? Did he secretly think Ethan was a fraud? For the rest of the celebration, Ethan barely enjoyed the achievement. He was too busy trying to read another person's mind. This is what happens when life becomes a vertical ladder. Everyone above you becomes evidence that you are behind. Everyone below you becomes evidence that you are safe. Friendship becomes ranking. Work becomes performance. Even kindness becomes a strategy for earning approval. The courage to be disliked argues that inferiority is not always harmful. Seeing a gap between where you are and where you want to be can create energy. The trouble begins when the gap becomes a verdict on your worth. There is a difference between saying, "I want to improve," and saying, "Until I improve, I do not deserve to belong." One creates movement, the other creates shame. Ethan had spent years believing that one more achievement would finally make him secure, but every success only moved the finish line. The promotion did not end the competition. It gave him a higher floor from which to be afraid of falling. If your worth depends on winning, peace will always require someone else to lose. That evening, Ethan took the promotion folder to his mother's house. She had cooked too much food, as usual. His sister was already there. For 20 minutes they talked about traffic, bills, and a neighbor's renovation. Then his mother placed a hand on the folder and smiled. "Your father always knew you would become someone important." Ethan felt the old reflex rise in him. Smile, say thank you, protect the mood. Instead, he took a breath. "I haven't accepted it yet." His mother's expression changed. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm not sure this is the life I want." The room became painfully quiet. His mother reminded him how hard his father had worked. She talked about security, reputation, and wasted opportunities. Then she said the sentence Ethan had feared all day. "I don't understand you anymore." In that moment, he wanted to take everything back. Because this is the part most advice about boundaries leaves out. A boundary may give you peace later, but first, it often creates tension. The people around you have to meet a version of you they can no longer control through disappointment. The book calls the answer to this problem the separation of tasks. When a decision is being made, ask one question: who will ultimately live with the consequences? Ethan would have to wake up each morning and do the job. He would carry the stress, spend the hours, and live inside the choices the promotion demanded. That made the decision his task. His mother was allowed to feel worried. She was allowed to disagree. She was even allowed to be disappointed. Those feelings belonged to her task. Ethan could listen with compassion. He could explain himself honestly. But he could not manage her emotions without handing her control of his life. A boundary is not a punishment, it is the place where honesty begins. This does not mean cutting people off whenever they challenge you. It does not mean refusing responsibility, ignoring feedback, or hiding selfishness behind psychological language. Separating tasks means doing your part fully while refusing to do another person's inner work for them. You can apologize for speaking cruelly. You cannot force forgiveness. You can prepare carefully for an interview. You cannot control the employer's decision. You can love your child and offer guidance. You cannot live your child's life. You can publish your work with integrity. You cannot control the comments underneath it. How much of your anxiety comes from trying to complete tasks that were never yours? Ethan looked at his mother and said, quietly, "I know you want the best for me, but I need to decide what that means." She did not smile. His sister looked down at her plate. Nothing was resolved that night, and that matters. The courage to be disliked does not promise that courage will make everyone agree with you. Courage is what you need precisely because they may not. Being disliked is not the goal. Being free enough to be honest is. Most of us say we want freedom, But what we often want is freedom without social cost. We want to choose our own path and still receive unanimous approval. We want to say no without anyone feeling hurt. We want to change without disrupting the role our family assigned us. But that version of freedom does not exist. Every meaningful choice closes another door. Every honest identity disappoints someone who imagined a different one for you. If everyone gets a vote on your life, you are the only person who never gets to live it. Still, there is a danger here. You could hear all of this and decide that other people do not matter. You could turn independence into isolation and call it strength. But that would miss the book's greatest reversal. The courage to be disliked is not about escaping human relationships. It is about entering them without using approval as the price of admission. Adlerian psychology points toward what the book calls a sense of community. You stop treating other people as judges, rivals, or tools. You begin to experience them as companions, not above you, not below you, beside you. This changes the question at the center of your life. Instead of asking, "How do I prove that I matter?" you ask, "How can I contribute here?" The difference is subtle, but enormous. Approval says, "I am valuable when you applaud me." Contribution says, "I can offer something because I am already here." The following Monday, Marcus entered Ethan's office carrying a presentation deck. He had to pitch an idea to senior management and wanted Ethan's opinion. The old Ethan would have seen an opportunity to establish superiority. He might have rewritten the entire presentation, then waited for gratitude. Or he might have offered vague advice, afraid that helping Marcus succeed would make him more dangerous. Instead, Ethan asked, "What are you trying to make them understand?" For an hour, they worked side by side. Ethan did not take over. He did not make Marcus feel small. He simply contributed what he could and left the ownership where it belonged. Marcus gave the presentation. It went well. Senior management praised him, and for the first time, Ethan noticed the familiar sting of comparison without obeying it. He did not need Marcus to fail in order to remain valuable. You do not find your worth by becoming useful enough to be kept. You experience it by contributing without surrendering yourself. That distinction protects generosity from becoming another form of people-pleasing. Real contribution is chosen. It does not secretly demand love in return. There is one final idea in the courage to be disliked that brings everything together. We tend to imagine life as a line. Childhood is the beginning. Success is somewhere in the distance. Every day is valuable only if it moves us closer to a future destination. So we postpone being alive. We tell ourselves we will relax after the promotion, feel confident after losing weight, create after becoming talented, or speak honestly after becoming fearless. But the book invites us to see life less like a race and more like a dance. A dance does not become meaningful only when the music ends. Its meaning exists in the movement itself. That night in the car, Ethan had treated his life like a journey toward a final moment when everyone would approve of him and he would finally feel safe. But there was no final certificate coming. No achievement could reach backward and give his childhood self the unconditional approval he had wanted. No promotion could guarantee that nobody would ever be disappointed in him again. There was only this evening, this breath, this decision. The present is not a hallway leading to your real life. It is your real life. So how do you use these ideas without turning your world upside down overnight? Start smaller than your fear tells you to. Notice one moment when you are about to say yes automatically. Pause and ask what you actually choose. When you feel responsible for someone else's reaction, ask whose task it is. When comparison makes another person's success feel like your failure, step off the ladder. Look for one honest way to contribute instead. When your past appears as a verdict, let it become information. It tells you where you were hurt. It does not have to tell you where to go. And choose one action that belongs to today. Not the perfect 5-year plan. Not the person you promised to become. One email. One conversation. One boundary. One beginning. Ethan did not quit his job the next morning. He did not sell everything, move across the world, or transform into a fearless new person. He asked for a week to consider the promotion. He kept dinner plans with his sister. He called his mother even though the conversation was still uncomfortable. Then he carried the suitcase upstairs and finally unpacked it. That was all. But for the first time in years, his next step belonged to him. Maybe courage rarely looks dramatic from the outside. Maybe it is simply the moment you stop asking, "How do I avoid being disliked?" and begin asking, "What kind of life am I willing to take responsibility for?" Some people may misunderstand you. Some may prefer the quieter version of you. Some may leave. But the people who remain will finally have the chance to know someone real. And you will too. So here is the question the courage to be disliked leaves with us. If you no longer needed everyone's approval, what would you do differently tomorrow? Not someday. Tomorrow. Because freedom does not arrive when fear disappears. It begins when fear is no longer the author of your life. But taking back your life does not automatically make you happy. Because even after you stop chasing approval, you may still be measuring yourself against everyone around you. A friend succeeds and suddenly you feel behind. A coworker gets promoted, and your own progress begins to feel smaller. In the next episode, we will explore why comparison quietly turns life into a competition, friends into rivals, and success into a ladder you can never finish climbing. Because freedom is not only the courage to disappoint other people, it is also the courage to stop using their lives to measure your own.